welcome to video number 2, or maybe video number 1 if you were starting here with a lender. But I'm joined today by Josh Johnson with CrossCountry Mortgage. We've worked together a number of times now.
Yeah.
And he's been here through, we've had some easy ones, we've had some challenging ones, everything in between.
Yeah.
So today, again, it's really just going to be, if you don't have a lender, if you don't have a place to start, Josh is going to give us some ideas of, it's a big cliff to jump off of when you're buying a house, and you need somebody there for you, in your corner, working with you. That's my job from the agent side, but I can't do everything. So the lender side is the backup, if you will, and we work together. We're a team when we put these things together. So the very first thing I hear from clients a lot, especially from first-time home buyers, is, hey, I'm ready to go shopping. And then my first question is, well, what's our budget? Are we pre-approved? And then they can, oh yeah, I was online and I put in some information and they spit out a number that I'm good for $500,000. There's a difference between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. Can you touch on a little bit about that and what the difference is and why it's significant? What one carries weight and what doesn't, or what does that mean?
Yeah, of course. To maybe first touch on something you said a little bit earlier, which is having that good team around you, and why it's important to have a great real estate agent and a great lender, is when you're going to buy your very first home and you're going to apply for a home loan. A lot of people can think of that part of the process as just the, okay, I'm just going to, like you mentioned, submit an application online, see what number gets spat back at me, and then I just go shop and everything else falls into place later. And this ties into the question about pre-qualification versus pre-approval. What you should really look for as a home buyer, regardless of what lender you're working with, is somebody that will walk you through several different home loan options for you and strategies. I'm a firm believer that home loans aren't a one-size-fits-all product. They're very, very customizable and different person to person. And we can oftentimes find solutions for people that maybe, let's say, have more of a concern with the monthly payment side of their mortgage. Well, let's talk about rate buy downs and this and that to get the monthly payment lower. Some people have concerns about the amount of cash they need to bring to closing. Well, let's look at down payment assistance. So something that we try to do is really walk somebody through what their options are. And in terms of that pre-qualification versus pre-approval, a pre-qualification is really best summed up as, hey, here's what my estimated credit score, my income are, this is about how much I have roughly in savings, and then a lender's taking that information and using that to essentially run a calculator to show, based off X, Y, and Z, you should be able to afford X home price, which is usually, we're boiling that down to a monthly payment.
Sure.
So that is a perfectly fine place to get started, but issues can arise later in the process of maybe you go out and you're just pre-qualified and you make an offer on a home and you go under contract, and then the lender starts getting documents from you to back up what your income is, and maybe we might calculate it a little bit differently than you do, or we bring in that credit report and there was something you didn't know about or an extra debt that you forgot about that we have to factor in, and that's when some issues can happen. So I'm a firm believer in a full pre-approval, and that's when we bring in their credit, we bring in all their documents, we get everything pre-reviewed or pre-underwritten to where essentially by the time they go out to start shopping for a house and set foot in a home, they're already confident in knowing that they are going to get approved for that financing. So that's the biggest difference between the two, I'd say.
Yeah, because there's no verification with the pre-qualification.
Yes.
Right? There's no
Yes.
no double checking and no looking into it, no investigation looking into it.
Right.
And that goes a long way with sellers as well. They want that confidence that if they're going to take their house off of the market or off the market for 3 weeks, 30 days, somewhere around there, until maybe potentially things fall through. But if they're going to take their house off the market and go under contract with me and with you as the buyer, they want to have some assurances and some securities, knowing that these potential buyers are ready to go and everything is validated, and it's a fairly secure contract at that point. Again, things can always happen. We'll talk about that later. But
Well, it's funny because you make me think of something. So this would actually be one of my just biggest, hey, here's a heads up or here's a tip when you go to get pre-approved. We probably will ask that buyer when they submit their application for a good amount of documentation. We might have questions about certain things that might require more information or further documentation. And the biggest thing to know is if you're going to buy your first house is don't be, offended or think that we're just asking you for more stuff just to try to make your life hard. That's definitely not at all. We're actually really doing it to protect them at the end of the day because we don't want any sort of disappointment or anything to go south when things move further down the pipeline.
Sure.
So,
There's a lot of, as we'll talk about in the contract and paperwork video, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of paperwork. When we get to title and escrow, same thing. Your wrist is sore from all of the paperwork that you're signing.
yeah.
Both from the mortgage lending side of things, the financing, as
Mhm.
well as with with your agent, with your contract paperwork, and then obviously with title and escrow. There's a lot of paperwork to go through. So
Yeah.
protecting my client, protecting your client, protecting the buyer from the get-go is incredibly important.
Yeah.
Which leads me, I guess, to another question or another little topic of, what can your lender do for you? We talked in the
Mhm.
last video, and if you haven't watched it, go back and watch that one. But when you're interviewing agents or starting from square one, looking for a real estate professional to help you on this journey,
Yeah.
we talked about things to ask them, questions to ask, and what my role and responsibility is for you to advocate on
Mhm.
your behalf as your agent, as your representative. So from the lender side of things,
Yeah.
what are some things that the lender, that you can do for the client other than obviously getting them pre-approved and
Yeah.
working through? What are some things that you can do to help them? We've had some run-ins and some issues with,
Mhm.
with things we've needed to do for the
Mhm.
client. So
Yeah.
what are some of those things from the financing side?
Yeah, so additional things that we can really do to help you on the lending side of things when you're going to buy your home is, let's say we knock out an application, we review your credit report, and maybe there's something on there that is just holding back someone's score just enough to be able to really get the rate that they want or to qualify for the purchase price that they want to purchase. We can help them actually get a plan together to build their credit. We have systems on the back end where we can, essentially say, hey, if we pay down this credit card to this balance, what would that do to their credit score? So we can run different simulations and really try to help someone through that. And if needed, we can also get them connected with a credit repair professional too. So we can help in that application process to continue to prepare and plan for that future purchase, which maybe is a great, maybe it's worth noting too that you shouldn't just get pre-approved or do a home loan application right when you're ready to buy a house, next weekend. I would say start as early as you're comfortable doing it. Start if you're okay with buying or applying a year ahead of time. Do it. The reason why is because if there is something that maybe we can work on to make your home loan or your purchase experience less stressful and better when the time comes, then it's worth getting that done early. So we can help in the application process with somebody getting a plan together to be home buy ready. And even while they're out shopping too, something that I like to do, which I know that we've kind of implemented this strategy on, I think probably all the buyers that we've worked with together, is once that offer's out, I like to pick up the phone and call the listing agent. And the reason why I'll do that is it's just showing that, again, Byron mentioned that we as the agent and lender really operate as a team for the transaction process. So another way to show that teamwork is to have me call the listing agent and say, hey, I'm representing so-and-so, I'm representing their financing. They've completed a full application, we have everything pre-underwritten, wouldn't expect this to be anything but a smooth transaction should we get to work together. I'll give you an update every week where we're moving in on our side of the process, that way you can update your sellers and let them know. So it just can show that extra level of, okay, wow, this offer that's being presented to us, they've got an agent and a lender that's behind it that are going to be proactive in making this work and less stressful for me and my sellers, which they seem to like that. And I've seen that help sway the odds sometimes. I don't know if you have.
Absolutely. That scenario that you just mentioned has worked a couple of times as far as I have had conversations with listing agents on offers that I have submitted that you have followed up on without me asking, but without the listing agent reaching out, and you've had those conversations proactively, And I've had conversations when the listing agent has called me to say, hey, your offer has been accepted, we're under contract. And a lot of it was because of the security that they felt after speaking with you, and just kind of having a brief rundown on here's how good we feel about this buyer. Here's how good we feel about their offer, and all the money, it all lines up and things look great. And that's gone a long way to get us under contract, which is huge. So again, thank you for all of that. And those are things that to have conversations with when you are, if you're chatting with a lender, feel free to ask them what can you do for me? Because that's what we're here for, is to work for you on your behalf. So don't feel weird about asking, hey, what else can you do for me? Because those if you're chatting with a lender and all they do is spit out a pre-approval letter and then process paperwork, and that's it, that's going to accomplish the job, but it's not how I like to run business, and obviously I know it's not your way as well, which is why I think we work well together. But there's a lot more behind the scenes that goes on than I think people know about.
Yeah, totally. And there's a story that I've seen play out, unfortunately too many times, where somebody just gets that spat out pre-approval letter with a rate on it, and then I'm helping that person, and they'll say something like, oh, okay, your rate is here, how come at so and so bank their rate was down here? And then I'll ask, okay, did they get you a loan estimate? Did they get you something that breaks down all the costs that go into that? And they'll say, oh, no, they didn't do that. I say, okay, well, go ask for a loan estimate and feel free to send it over to me. I'll review it, I'll look over, just make sure everything looks good, like that's, you're getting that rate fairly. And then I get that loan estimate, and there can sometimes be an additional several $1,000s in fees to get there. And it's like, oh, well, hey, I can actually get you that same rate too for the same thing, or let me show you a few different options and maybe why it actually makes sense to take a little bit of a higher rate but have less in cost, depending on when you might refinance or how long you're going to be in the home. So we can even get, we won't get into all those weeds for this video, but we really can go in depth with people to show them what's the best mortgage strategy for them and why is that.
So I'm glad you mentioned what you just did at the end as far as not getting into the weeds, because there's another video to come where we'll talk a little bit more in depth about once we do go under contract, we have the escrow period. There's a title portion, and then that's where all of the funding mechanism takes place. And so there's a lot more detail to go there. So I can understand that watching this, it may seem overwhelming. Oh my gosh, there's so much to do. There's going to be all this paperwork, and people are going to be investigating all of the nooks and crannies of my life. And while part of that may be true, it's not insurmountable, and it's something that we can do, which is why it's so good and comforting to have some trusted experts working for you and with you and by your side. So I guess one more thing, just we'll close on this as far as if you're watching this and you are interested in getting into real estate or buying that first home, what is the best first step that somebody can take? What is the saying? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a step. So what is that first step that somebody can take when either contacting you or if I get you connected with someone? What on the financing side? What's that jumping off point?
Yeah, this might feel like a really simple answer, but this is my honest answer. What comes first to mind is just having a conversation. I think that what you mentioned about it feeling like, I think a lot of first-time home buyers especially do feel nervous about applying with a lender because it feels like you're revealing every part of you. And we do live in a society where we don't normally talk about our personal financial and credit lives with just our friends, or other people, especially people that we don't know. So the idea of like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go and I'm going to open up and reveal everything to this person that I don't know, it's scary. But that is the best first step that you can do, is just to talk with a lender. You don't even have to apply to have a conversation. So there's a lot of times where I'll just talk to people, ask them questions, and sometimes even in that just initial conversation before an application, we can pick out different pieces. Okay, maybe we want to work on this, or here's something that we can do to solve this. So a lot of times just a simple conversation can be a good indicator of, okay, what's our next steps from here? Let's work on this, or hey, I'd recommend for us to actually dig into this deeper. Let's get started with an application next, and here's the steps to do that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sticking around, Josh. Thank you for enlightening us on the behind the scenes of all the financial stuff. So thank you again for watching. Josh's info is going to be down below in the little description there. And feel free to reach out to me if you have questions for him as well. But later on, we'll see him again when we go under contract. We've had a successful offer, and now we're really into it. So we'll dive into the weeds later. But thank you again for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Byron.